an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 487 through 489. The insatiable Akainu, lava fists pummel Luffy. The desperate scream, courageous moments that will change the future. And here comes Shanks, the war of the best is finally over. In these episodes, so Shanks shows up just in time to save Coby's life because Coby's having a little bit of a nervous breakdown. And honestly, I don't blame him at all. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Florian for commissioning this episode. And also thank you to Florian for allowing me to move this episode. Originally, it was going to be tomorrow. Full disclosure, guys, I moved it to the wrong day, so I wound up screwing everything up anyway. But it just didn't matter in the end, so it's fine. I have so many questions about what's going on with Coby, everyone. I have so many questions about it. I'm actually pretty stoked about it, I'll be honest, because okay, so there's a couple things. One, it could be that what's happening with Coby isn't a superpower. Because the way that this world works, it's so heightened that there are times where people can do things that in the real world would be seen as an actual superpower. But in their world, it's simply sort of they just got so upset that this miracle basically happened. Or they were possessed with the power of honor, or you know what I mean? There is a sort of emotion defying physics that happens. And so there was a part of me at first that kind of thought, when he was initially on the ground and shaking and upset, that it was just the sheer reaction to the brutality of everything and this feeling of won't it ever be over? When do we stop? The cycle just goes on and on and on. And I was fine with that, if that were what it was going to be. Now, though, I'm starting to wonder if there isn't something else going on. And I really can't I want it, if I'm going to be just totally straightforward with you guys. I want it to be a superpower because I would like Coby to have leveled up. It's seeming as if Helmeppo isn't in the same place as him. And I don't know if it's that Coby has developed some ability that Helmeppo hasn't. If it's that they each have different gifts, if Helmeppo has been straight up sort of left behind. And you know what? I'm going to look because Florian sent me a message on the Discord, and I only saw it just before I was beginning, so I didn't get a chance to reply. But he said that he was going to make a change to the character list, and he didn't want me to read it until after I watched the episodes. So let me go and see, because I bet that they are the change. Yep. Okay, here it is. Coby and Helmeppo. And then it says, some of the 6 powers, like Shave or Iron Body. Interesting. So, the 6 powers, I don't think there's anybody here today in the audience, which is a shame because I have a lot of questions and maybe I wouldn't be able to get answers, but I would like to just be able to ask, But I really have this whole arc. There has been a big part of me going, what is the deal with Coby being somebody that we keep cutting to, and then nothing seems to happen with him. Like, why do we just have to screw up the momentum of the episode by cutting away to a person who seems to really otherwise not have much to do with anything, you know? And now it feels like this is why, I'll be honest, this is a difficult thing because they are not still very involved. They become, I say they, I'm kind of categorizing Coby and Helmeppo as being like one person at this point, which I know isn't really fair, but like functionally in the story, that's how it's been. So I'm just going to go with that. But then Coby winds up being so important to like grinding everything to a halt that I can see how difficult it would be as a writer to keep them at the top of our minds and aware that like that they're here, but also not like, because you can't just have somebody come out the gate after we don't see them for several episodes and they just yell, everybody stop. And it doesn't feel weird. Like, it would be really unnatural if they didn't have anything with Helmeppo and Coby at all. And then Coby does what he does. So you've got to find a balance. And it's just part of the symptom of the issue with the show having to drag things out the way that it does. I just straight up, guys, I really, really hope that the live action is continued and renewed for like season after season after season, because I feel like the bones of One Piece of the original series are so solid, but it needs like a renovation because it's like a house that's like got a still amazing structure to the, like, it's, you know, the integrity of it, but it was built so long ago that rooms are placed in spots that don't make a lot of sense. Like, the flow of the house just feels not modern, and there's just a lot of like I know you're attached to this wallpaper because so-and-so put it up, but you've got to face facts. It just doesn't work. And you know what I mean? Like, the live action is really getting to take some of these storylines and just edit them so tightly that I'm really excited about it. And I really want that to continue. I'm so worried that Netflix is going to do what they fucking do, and that they're going to like get to the second season and then cancel it, or third season and then cancel it. And it's just going to have been like something that they almost allowed to really like flourish, but it never really got its chance. So just, you know, everybody like pour one out for the gods of Netflix, and hoping that if we make the sacrifice, they'll keep the show going and long enough that we can actually begin to see the potential come to fruition there, because the first season was just so great. And this arc, I could see being something that if you cut it down, and the way that they have developed Coby into a main character in the live action, that this could work really, really well. And I wouldn't be asking the question, why do we keep cutting over to these two? There's nothing happening with them. Because it wouldn't have to happen once every 10 minutes over the course of like 11 episodes in a row. So anyway, the thing with Coby as well, and I know I have to start back at the 487 and like, you know, kind of backtrack after I talk about this, but I just wanted to mention this out of the gate for like my own personal sort of, I don't want to say that the statement I am about to make is always true across the board. I know that there are exceptions. However, oftentimes when there is a character who is sort of overwhelmed by the violence, you know, the needless killing and the endless cycle that seems impossible to break from. And often when there is a character who can like sense the emotions and reactions of the people around them to the point where they begin to sort of like lose it, that is so often a woman. It is so frequently a female character. And there is just, I don't think I realized how bored of that I was until this. I just really appreciate it being Coby that this is happening to. And there is the fact that Coby has been a really sensitive kind of character from the beginning. It works. I feel like this makes a lot of sense. As far as it being like the 6 powers that's mentioned in the chart that Florian gave me, I don't remember those powers and what they entail. And I don't know if what he's experiencing in these episodes, Coby, is part of that, or if it's a separate thing. It's certainly possible, guys, forgive me, that this has been something we've seen before and I have just forgotten. You know how it is with this series going this long. Like, just everybody like cut me some slack. I'm just like arguing with a straw man over here. Nobody is yelling at me, and yet I'm preemptively being like, don't yell at me. You know, it's anxiety. But if it turned out that Coby was able to do something sort of like mind read, or at least when everybody's like, their emotions are really high, that he could sense things, thus making him sort of the voice of reason in the midst of stuff, I would think that fascinating. I would actually be really, really into that as a way for his character to not only be useful and, you know, I don't want to be a shit, but he hasn't done a lot, so we need to give him a job. But also, that is something that could potentially, if he is still insisting on staying with the Marines, which it seems he is, tragically, maybe he could be somebody who reins in the Marines' bloodthirsty approach to everything. Now, I also have to address that ACAB and you know, one person deciding that maybe we shouldn't just keep murdering forever isn't going to fix a system as broken as the Marines are, the same way that like a good cop in the system can't fix the corrupt justice system. It just doesn't work. I sympathize with thinking we could change things from the inside. I really understand why you would believe you could do that, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like, it's been shown time and time again. So I'm hoping that if we let that be a thing in this universe, maybe he can make a difference, because we are in a different universe here than reality. And maybe this is a place where one person can make a change and it would actually help. I just, you know, I would love that. Let's live in that fantasy. So I just wanted to really address him out of the gate, because the thing with him, again, it does get drawn out a lot. You know, he's on the ground gripping his head and he's hearing voices and you don't know what's going on. And it lasts such a long time. At first, I thought it was just him sort of like having like memories rushing back. Like, I thought that he was reacting to the thought of how people had been acting from the start of this battle. And then once it began to sink in for me that this was all going on currently, and it was like he was I say like reading thoughts. I said that earlier, and I know that's not exactly accurate because what he's hearing in the context of what's going on, it all sounds like it's actually being spoken aloud. It doesn't feel like he's hearing thoughts. Not really. So I know that that is a sort of a misnomer, but he has a sort of like a ability to hear beyond when he should be able to, or where. You know, it's so difficult for me to like describe because I'm sure that there is a actual word for this type of power, and I am just not thinking of it because I'm like I don't actually, you would think that with the amount of fantasy that I cover that I would be more familiar with this sort of thing, but actually it's Owen who reads a ton of comic books, and he's the one that's like always on top of the names of different powers and stuff because he has run across it so much in comics. So it's, you know, for me, I just kind of nod and go, oh yeah, that, you know, but I don't remember what they're called. So, all right, let's back up now and we'll go to 487. Fucking Teach is still like this dude. It's kind of funny. Like eventually he realizes I am creating total mayhem here, and maybe I should just like back off and get my powers more under control so that we know what's actually going on and I can do some things effectively without killing all of my own allies. And that's sort of what, you know, I really want to know how they found out about whatever this technique is that allowed him to take the devil fruit power from Whitebeard, because it seems almost like he didn't know how it was going to work once he did it. I won't say that it seemed like he wasn't sure if it was going to work, because that isn't true. I think they were pretty fucking confident. They seemed to know that shit would work. So you get the sense that Teach isn't prepared to be this clumsy with it. There is a point when he is like breaking the walls of this place apart, and one of the Marines is like, the pirates have taken everything we have. This symbol of our strength. It's a nightmare. And I love it because everybody is fleeing except this one Marine who's just stopping and watching and staring at the building that's breaking apart. And this is like what it comes down to a little bit later is when everybody is like, all right, well, what does this come down to? You have, oh my God, Sengoku. I think it's him who specifically says the whole point of like this stronghold is for it to be a symbol of our power in the Marines. Like as the Navy, we have other headquarters, we have other strongholds, but this one is like, I think he says dead center in the world. I can't remember how he worded it. And basically, it's like meant to be a sort of beacon. He describes it as so that our light can shine into every corner, which is just, it's really funny because like they are so shitty. I really want to see a reformed version of the Marines, but I don't even know what that would look like and how I could believe it. It's just an interesting thing in this series because like it really feels as if we've got extremely black and white good guy bad guy stuff, but then you've got Teach, who's a pirate, being very bad. Like we have definitely had pirates who we don't want to be allied with, and if it were between them and the Marines, you don't know what you would do because like they both suck in their own ways. And that's sort of what makes it fun, right? Like somebody like Buggy, Luffy teams up with Buggy and manages to get out of the prison and break, well, he would have broken Ace out if things had gone differently. So there is a sense of like, even the ones that are real rascals and bad guys aren't so irredeemable that you can't work with them sometimes. But then there's guys like Teach, who I feel this dude is just off his rocker. I just don't think there's reasoning with a man like this. I don't think you can team up with him even temporarily. And his allies, it just feels sort of this, like, I feel the same way about all of them, in that the only reason that they are teamed up as of right now is because they have powers they feel like nobody can stand up to, and they need to align with other people who are as formidable. But I have to imagine that the second they're going to get a chance to stab each other in the back, that's going to be it for them. Like, I don't think they're a crew at this point. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about it. I don't know. But yeah, so the Teach's like whole threat, I guess you would say, for this episode is that he is going to give Marineford a burial at sea. And this is when Sengoku comes down in his like weird golden Buddha form and slams into him, and he gives the speech about how we'll rebuild whatever it is that you tear down. But this island is different. It's more than a symbol of our strength. It stands in the center of the world. And that means if we want to protect innocent people from criminals such as yourself, it must be our stronghold. So this is something that sort of begins to answer the question I have been asking this whole time about what is Marineford. Is it all like a floating island? Is it an island that's just covered from wall to wall with stone and buildings? What is the deal with this place? And he calls it an island, but the way that he reacts to Teach's threat about giving it a burial at sea leads me to believe that if he were to break up the building, that's also breaking up the foundations of the island. And I believe that's what we're doing here, is like the island and the buildings are so intrinsically melded together by this point that he would be like wiping a whole piece of land off the map if he were to do what he can with his new tremor powers. So Sengoku here is still in his gold form, and his speech about standing up to him and whatnot is inspiring all of the other troops. A lot of the Marines had been looking pretty grim and seeming to like feel as if there was just no hope. So why bother? You saw a bunch of them like sort of collapsed on the sidelines and feeling overwhelmed and hopeless. And now they begin to stand up in response to what Sengoku is saying. And I just want to register once again some disappointment in Sengoku's power. I don't know if it's just that I haven't gotten to see what it's truly capable of yet, and that's why it feels sort of like a letdown for me. But he just is not, like, it just looks like he can get really big. And that is not that interesting. I really want there to be more that he can do with this, and other than just like be intimidating, which it feels like is the primary purpose, you know? But yeah, so all of the Marines are just like, yeah, that's right. We're going to take these assholes down. It's our job as Marines. We're going to like handle these guys. Now's our chance. We'll show every criminal what happens when you defy the law. We'll let the whole world know that justice will prevail. And as they are saying all of this, we see a bunch of the pirates who are trying to get out. Like, I believe they are just trying to flee the area and get back to their ship. and they get stopped by the Marines and by Kizaru, who it's just a really bummer move because, like, yeah, you could just let them go. You could just let it be like, all right, so you're not surrendering, but fleeing at this point. Yeah, you've won. Can you just leave it alone? But they can't. They have to prove their point. And as all of this is happening, by the way, we have Eva is like saying to Jinbei that we bought you some time, because Jinbei is still out here trying to get Luffy away from the island. And he eventually manages it. You know, of course he does. Luffy is just fucking out of it the whole time. I am still so shocked, guys, that him being catatonic and just being carried away is actually what happened. I didn't mean it when I said it. I just didn't really mean it. I felt like it would have worked, you know, but it didn't. I should have known, because of the fact that he has to be taken out of the game so often, that was likely to be what we went with here. But, you know, yeah. Anyway. So this is when we have Eva fighting, who is she? Akainu. The fight with Akainu, like, Eva's using that weird sort of glove power that turns him into, like, Wolverine for a second. And I was pretty impressed with it, actually. Like, I feel like Eva is always able to pull something out that I didn't expect. There keeps being surprising twists in what his powers are. So every time that we go over to him, it's just so different than some of the other characters' powers, where I am sitting here looking at Sengoku like, bitch, you're big and you're gold. Very, very exciting. And then we go over to Eva and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know we could do that. That's cool. However, his beautiful nails do get melted. And this is when Akainu says, I'd heard your techniques were eccentric. And that certainly seems to be the case. And this is when Eva says, aesthetic technique, fat suctioning fist. I had never even thought about it. But the fact that a lot of Eva's powers have to do with, like, hormone injections and stuff, I didn't consider just plastic surgery as well. Just, like, you know, a variety of sort of surgical medical procedures. So yeah, Eva, like, going for him. And I'm really thinking that he's going to do something, that this is going to be like a fucking win, a moment, you know? And instead, Akainu punches Eva in the face and just sends him flying. And it looks really, really bad. I didn't love this. I was really bummed about it. Eva, it's not like, you know, it's not like he's dead or anything, but I just really love Eva, and I want him protected at all costs. I do enjoy when he says that his face is melting, and then he says, oh, that's not my face, that's just my garish makeup, and manages to pull all of it off in one piece like an actual mask, but is then simply standing there in the midst of real fire, realizing, like, oh shit, wait a second. He goes down, and the other pirates are, like, trying to get in to help, but they're blocked by all of these flames. And in the midst of it is Akainu, just looking very intimidating, saying, who's next? And I will say, Akainu, I don't like him. I don't respect him. But I will admire that this man is as unstoppable as, like, Jason Voorhees. There just seems to be something about him that cannot be stopped. He's like some sort of automaton. and is so fixated on what he sets out to do that it's just like he bowls through anything in his path to get it done. And it really sucks when you don't want him to succeed, how single-minded he is. So this is the point where we get our first check-in with Helmeppo and Coby. And Coby is saying, I don't get it. Like, we've won. I know they're pirates, but like, isn't enough enough? And he literally uses the word overkill, which it's so funny because I don't think of that word as being what it is. But, whenever I hear it used, it's always meant to be a metaphor. But that's like very literally what's happening now, is we are overdoing the killing. So this is when we have the whole beginning of the breakdown starting to happen, as he's like asking this question and looking around at the men that are still fighting and the bloodshed. He is starting to really lose it, and Helmeppo is like, dude, what is going on? And when he says at one point, like, I can hear voices, you can see Helmeppo being like, what? Like, he does not know what to do with this information. Jinbei is out here like, all right, so I can't fight a lot of these guys on land, but I am going to get into the water and they won't be able to be a match for me there. Akainu is like after him in midair, and Jinbei punches him even though he's lava. And it doesn't do anything. I was surprised that Akainu, or that Jinbei even bothered to like try and punch him. But I guess, like, you gotta try and do something. He gets gripped up by Akainu, who then scorches a hole right through Jinbei's middle. And this is the moment where Luffy's hat falls off. And I just really want to point out that Jinbei has got a hole in his gut, but the camera pulls away from that to focus on Luffy's hat blowing away. I understand that this hat is important, but Jinbei has a hole in his gut, a big one. Why are you not more concerned about it? Like, I don't think he's going to die, but I really resented the fact that we then took a moment to go follow the hat. That is not what I'm concerned about right now. Just speaking for me. And even like the guys on the sidelines are like, oh, it went straight through him. It may have hit Straw Hat. And I was like, can't it just have maybe gone straight through him be bad enough? But yeah, so Jinbei finally, like, he took a leap, a very literal leap, because what he wanted was to get in the water, his own element, and be able to face this guy. But the fucking water was still frozen down there. And he winds up landing hard on the ice. He lets go of Luffy, and Luffy does have some pretty serious damage. He doesn't have a hole in him, but it's definitely like a pretty bad burn. I have to mention this one little thing here. As Akainu is walking towards Jinbei, he has one hand out in front of him that's molten. And there is this cool moment where the lava, magma, whatever, dripping off of his hand is hitting the ice and then immediately cooling into these little spikes because of like the pattern and how it falls and the way that it freezes up right away. And I just thought that was a really neat little detail. So yeah, Akainu comes down here to meet up with Jinbei, who is like so devastated that he feels like he failed Luffy and is apologizing for not upholding his vow. And he stands up, or he starts to, but really what he's the most concerned about is being a human shield between Luffy and Akainu. Like, he wants to, if he can't actually get Luffy out of there, he wants to be able to say that he gave up his life doing his best to protect Luffy. And it's just really sad because, like, Jinbei is a little bit of he's a very serious character. I was going to call him a stick in the mud. That's unfair. That's too harsh. But I have grown to see him as sort of the clutch guy. You know, when every other person seems to have been, like, laid out, Jinbei is out here stepping into the cut and just really taking over and making it happen. So seeing him laying there with his eyes all white was really a bummer. I started to wonder if we were actually going to get another death. And I was surprised at how bummed I felt at the idea of him dying. And he has this moment where he's, like, remembering a conversation that he had with Ace, which inspires him to really, like, struggle to get to his feet again and face Akainu, who, I will say, I kind of like that Akainu is so, like, unwilling to let things just be dramatic for the sake of it. Like, he goes to strike out at Jinbei right away. He isn't waiting to let this man gain his feet. He's just going for it in a way that feels a lot more true to, like, how a real fight should go. So I kind of enjoyed that. And he is about to hit Jinbei, and here comes fucking Crocodile. And he is just basically to Jinbei like, if you're gonna do this shit and get this kid out of here, fucking go. Get it done. If you're gonna protect someone, then do it right. I don't like either of you, but if you screw this up, then you let the Navy win. So I really enjoy any time that Crocodile is, like, over here managing to be an unexpected, like, thorn in everybody's side. It's just fun, you know, because he really does feel like an agent of chaos, even though his actions aren't that chaotic. It seems like they're chaotic, but if you step back and look at it, it all actually falls in line and makes sense. Oh my God, I forgot about Buggy apologizing to all his pirates and saying, "You guys, I'm so sorry. I'm just the king of disappointment." And as he's floating in midair, apologizing to all of them, Jinbei smashes into them. And it, like, all comes together to look like he managed to catch them. Like this was all part. He wasn't running. He was just looking for Straw Hat because all the glory in the world means nothing compared to the life of an old friend. And all of the prisoners begin crying. His heart's as pure as a baby lamb. And then you cut up to Buggy, who's in the air. And he says, "I can't hear what they're saying, but I bet it's stupid." Oh, you guys, that was a good joke. Just like, everybody just falling all over themselves to be like flattering and him just being like, "Oh, these fucking morons, what are they doing?" So he's like holding on to the two of them and is like, why are they even up here? And why is it suddenly hot? And then he turns and he sees a giant magma fist coming in their direction. And Jinbei is like, "Thank you for saving our lives." But Buggy didn't mean to do that. He was just running and they happened to be like in his arms when he did it. I love Jinbei telling him, like, he was burned very badly, and Buggy's just saying, "I don't care." At this point, Akainu says to himself, "How many people do I have to go through to finish this brat?" And he gets his answer as Boa Hancock rolls up. And you just get all of these, like, is it Boa right here? Because I see all of these flower petals, and I was pretty sure that she factors into this, and I can't remember if she's the one who turns up right here. But everybody basically is stepping in front of him to say, oh, we have here's another person that you have to get through. I'm getting caught up in like describing things in so much detail. Oh no, I don't think it is Boa. I know she turns up later, but I think it was the dude who wears the geisha outfit. I think maybe that might be the person who brought the flower petals. I'm not sure. But yeah, everybody has gathered around him in the fog. So once the fog blows away, you see that almost all of the pirates have circled him. And they're saying, like, we're going to uphold Ace's legacy and we're going to save Straw Hat because the fact that you want to kill him so badly just means that he scares you because he has some real power to him. And I actually sort of liked that approach of like, you know what? It's no longer just about the principle of the thing. It's also kind of feeling like you guys wanting him dead so bad. It's starting to be suspect. Like, he's a kid. So what's the deal? And he winds up later kind of being like, why do you think that he would have your back? You think that becoming allied with him, that he's going to be able to help you guys out at some point? The kid is the son of one of the most like dangerous fucked up warlords, and there's no telling what side he's on and what he would actually do. So you know what? And we have a pretty intense sequence that I thought was neat where we like go underwater, like the camera goes underwater, and you see a red flash of light, and then all of this movement as a bunch of people apparently get blown away. So that's very unstable. And then like out on the ice, a bunch of pirates are like, wait, what was that? And then they see this other explosion and it's coming from the opposite direction. And everybody is starting to be like, okay, I thought we were done with this part. Why are we still in the midst of this? Meanwhile, Buggy is still trying to get Jinbei and Luffy over to a ship that has a medical bay. And Jinbei passes out, and so Buggy doesn't know where to go. And he's just sort of in the air, bugging out. Did you get it? Did you get it? Did you get the joke that I made? And as he's flying around, just sort of like, well, wait, what the fuck? Where do I go? What do I do? This fight gets worse and worse behind him, and he's starting to have to, like, veer pretty far out away from land. And then, boom, a ship surfaces. And it's fucking, what's-his-face, who looks like Daria's best friend's brother, Trent. And when Luffy, like, this guy is here to help Luffy, but Buggy doesn't believe him right away. And the law says, that's his name, that Buggy might be my enemy one day, but I'll let the fates decide that one. Either way, it'd be a waste for me to let him die here. So put him on here. He's going to die without my help. I'm a doctor. And I love Buggy just being like, what? Yeah, sure you are. Because that's pretty much what the next episode starts with, is Buggy just being like, why should I believe that? But jumping ahead, he does hand him over. He has to do a whole, like, what's in it for me thing. And then he gets shot at by cannons, and it seems like he starts to come to the conclusion of, like, oh, maybe just what's in it for me is getting out of the line of fucking fire. Like, how about my life is in danger right now? So this is all, like, fucking Akainu is still on the sidelines, just ready to he just takes it so personally that this kid got away. He is really giving, like, President Snow a little bit with his just sheer obsession at this point, sir. You know? I really love when Marco turns into a bird and, like, flies down the throat of the magma snake that he sends out. I thought that was pretty cool. So all of this is when the Marines like double down and are sending even more guys out. I didn't know they had more, but they're appearing from like under trapdoors and stuff. And Garp eventually is like throwing in with the Marines, very disappointed in that. And shit is beginning to hit the wall and finally, or hit the fan, I guess is really the saying. But finally we have Coby screaming, "That's enough." And I actually liked the speech that he gives. Like, the speech where you're urging everybody to stop fighting is a really hard one to write because it can come off as extremely, like, saccharine and full of cliches. And I don't expect, like, astonishing writing from this show or anything. But they can do pretty well with some speeches now and then. So the thing that really just sort of sends him over the edge is there's a Marine that has fallen, and he sees the, Marine has a piece of jewelry, like a locket or something on him. And when Coby picks it up, he sees a photo of this guy's, like, wife and children. And just, these are actual people that were doing this too. So finally, when Coby is like, guys, these are actual human beings that we're doing this to, there's no point in fighting. Like, it's over. We won. We can end this. Akainu, unsurprisingly, is just like, you're getting in the way of justice. So if you're going to stand in my way, I'll steamroll right over you. And I'll be real, I think that Akainu is taking some shit way too personally for him to say that it's about justice anymore. It just isn't, dude. It's like you're pissed that this kid got away. That's what it is, So finally, when Coby is like, you know what? Fine. If you stop fighting, or at least I said what I need to say, so if you kill me, I don't fucking regret it. I did it, and I would do it again. And Akainu is about to punch Coby to death. Like, this kid, I know that he's no younger probably than most of the Marines, but he just comes across as so young. That the idea Akainu was going to punch him to death is just dishonor upon you, dishonor upon your cow. Like, come on, really, dude? Jesus Christ. But he gets stopped, and when I saw the figure standing there with their sword up, I was like, that looks like Shanks. And then you get like a close-up, and you see the scars on his face, and you're like, oh yes, indeed it is Shanks. I'll tell you what, it had never even occurred to me to ask, where is Shanks throughout all of this? I didn't even ask myself the question. And I kind of should have, because this is exactly, I would think, the sort of shit that he would end up showing up for. But yeah, this it's just an interesting development here, this wrinkle. And him being the one that sort of steps in, he says the speech that he gives is, no matter what winds up happening here, you giving that speech and saying what you said has changed things for the better or worse. What you did today mattered. And I really appreciated just the sort of like, even if you were unsuccessful, it wasn't for nothing, because sometimes, yeah, shit doesn't quite go the way you want, but there's still, there was still a shift because of what you did. Shanks also finds the hat, so that's why he winds up wearing it for a little while again. But it's I'm thinking the Ace is going to come in here and just absolutely kick everybody's ass. And instead, did I say Ace? I think I said Ace. Oh, that's so sad. Shanks. Instead, we get Shanks encouraging them to back off to tell all the pirates, like, guys, look, I know it sucks, but you lost. He told you not to fight after, like, you know, to just do what needed doing, and you kept going. You have got to take your loss and walk away. And they finally do. Meanwhile, Shanks, because he's found this hat, he's making a deal with Buggy, and he's like, hey, if you give that back to Luffy for me, I'll give you a treasure map. I really love how easy it is to fool Buggy. He is such a stupid goon. So, yeah, at first, he tries to act like he hasn't been taken in at all. Oh, sure. Yeah, you just turn up with like, oh, we're such good pals. I'll just give you a treasure map if you hand a hat over to somebody. And Shanks just says, oh, well, I'm sure I can find somebody else who will want it. And Buggy instantly says, don't be so hasty. I'm sure that we can work something out. I'll take care of it for old time's sake. And he just takes off and brings the hat back. But of course it turns out that there is no treasure map, and he gets very, very angry. I love when Shanks says, oh, it's been a long time, huh? And Buggy's response is, don't just say that to me. Oh, it's been a long time, huh? Shut up! Like, the voice actor doing Buggy, God, he's good. He is so good. Is it the same guy who did Mr. 2? I feel like it is, but I don't remember. But yeah, he is very, very good. So we have then the like sort of flashback to everything that went down with Luffy and him telling Shanks he's not a man because he just like laughed off this guy, and then Shanks losing his arm to protect Luffy. And oh my God, guys, and Beppo is in this episode, and I don't remember Beppo being like this. Like, I'm sure he was, but it just slipped my mind that he is just sort of the Michael Cera character in all of the scenes that he's in. Like, he's just sort of the guy that's commenting, and it's not like he isn't involved, but he doesn't feel like a real player. He's the guy who's sort of everything's happening to. You know what I mean? And he's always the one that's sort of like, hey, we're running out of time, guys. Like, he has to be the voice of reason over and over again. And I really do enjoy him. Like, him being just a bear randomly is a choice, and I can't say I have a problem with it. But yeah, so at that point, after getting Luffy on board, they fucking go back underwater and take off, which I didn't expect. I didn't think they were just going to straight up like leave everybody else, but makes a lot of sense. I really appreciated that they got the fuck up out of there. So we remember too, we have the flashback of Shanks saying like, Luffy, I'm giving you my hat, and one day when you're a great pirate, I want you to give it back to me in good condition. But he says he can't keep the hat. It's too soon. Luffy hasn't gotten to where he needs to be. So that's why he's giving it back. I am just so like, you guys, I know eventually I got sort of used to it. But the dude playing Shanks and that wig, it's just really, really bad. And I wish we had gotten better, because Shanks is occasionally really hot. And it just makes me kind of think like, what could have been, you know? The actor is like attractive, but they just didn't do very much with him, you know? It felt like there was a lot of potential there, and they just sort of didn't. I don't know. So anyway, we then have this like, the whole like situation here with Shanks and him managing to get everybody to back off. I was like really pleased that even though there is a threat like, oh, we're just going to dump their bodies, we're not going to let you bury them, that he manages to sort of talk them down, because I thought that was going to be sort of the thing that wound up just causing it all to fall apart. So this is when when what's her face shows up. Oh my God, Hancock. She just is so not a Hancock. The fact that is her name is insane to me. But yeah, this is when she's like yelling at the guys, and they're like, oh my God, it's so hot when she's yelling at us. I knew that she played in with things somewhere. And there's even more of these fucking Kuma bots, y'all. So many. I don't know where they get them all. There's too fucking many. But when he's speaking to Teach, he says that your own thirst for vengeance is your undoing. If anyone here still hungers for battle. And then we have a very anime sequence of the camera spinning around him. He says, then come, we shall be more than happy to face you. And he is then surrounded by his cronies who are somewhat intimidating, but like the Marines look a lot more afraid than I felt was warranted for the particular group. It seemed like more of a threat simply that he was fresh on the scene with a bunch of people who hadn't been fighting for hours. So probably that's like his biggest advantage. But I wish that if they were characters that like the Marines recognized and felt intimidated by, that was conveyed a little bit better, because that did not come across. And this is when he says to, he says Teach, and then he's like, sorry, Blackbeard. And there's like a real sort of, I guess. Blackbeard, meanwhile, says, you're as pretty as a picture. Those scars are a nice touch. And I was like, you know what? He's not wrong. The whole look works very well. Pretty solid. I'm just saying. And then we see the like 1v1 lineup of Teach's people versus Shanks's people. And it was sort of a weird thing, because like they don't actually really go up against each other. I think it's just meant to be like who each of his guys is sort of aiming for at the moment, and just a sort of preview and pointing out that we do have a 1-to-1 fight here. But yeah, like I said earlier, Blackbeard just winds up being like, you know what? You guys aren't the ones I'm here to fight even. And I do need to work on like getting my power together. So I'm going to take off. Sengoku shrinks back down to his regular size, still shirtless, still absolutely shredded to the gods, and still a weird, useless Buddha man. I do not understand you, sir. I don't, and I won't. And so yeah, this is the like argument about what to do with the bodies. And he's like, I want to bury them. And Sengoku's basically like, why the fuck should I care what you want? And they eventually do come to an agreement. Fucking Doflamingo. There was in the Discord, you guys, somebody shared a picture of Ryan Reynolds as Ken, edited to look like Doflamingo, and it was fucking uncanny. Like, honestly, if Doflamingo shows up on the live action and it's not Ryan Reynolds, I know it won't be, because they cannot afford Ryan Reynolds. But if they could, wow, I bet he would leap at it. This feels like a character he would have so much fun playing. I really think he would. He's good at comedy. And I think he could have sort of a mean edge to him. I've never really seen him be a mean character before. But I feel like he could make it work, So again, we have the really long, drawn out, like, scan of the camera from one face to another. And there's some like random guy that is in the audience back on Sabaody and saying, I think maybe it's over now. And that's part of the reason why Shanks is like we're taking the bodies is because he knows that people are watching and that otherwise the Marines might make a spectacle of them, is the word that he uses. To which they're like, yeah, well, you pointed out that we won the battle and we earned that shit. But then Sengoku speaks over them all. The guys who were like saying, you know, and I was surprised, as much as he is like, why should I give a shit what you want? It's just sort of like, we really do need to call this shit. We need to end it. And if this is what's going to do it, then fine. And did I say Ace again? I feel like I keep saying Ace instead of Shanks. I just feel like I can't tell. So he says to the other Marines, now go treat the injured before it's too late. The war is over. And of course, then he has to say the Navy has won, even though it doesn't really look like it. When the camera pulls back, maybe you did, but at what cost? So that's pretty much the way that things wrap, is like everybody carrying the wounded and folks rushing around with like medical kits and stuff. We get one more look at the tattoo on, I think that's supposed to be Ace's back. I'm not sure. Maybe it's not, because Ace's back was like blown through and that looked like it was a back that was fully healed. But anyway, yeah, so that's the end of the episode. But there's just so much going on in this one. And I'm really, really interested in what's going on with Coby. And I hope that we get more of that like soon. I hope I don't have to wait too much for it. I bet I will, though. We'll see. All right, I've got to wrap, but thank you guys so much for listening. I really hope you're enjoying the coverage. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.